Thank you. Yes, Ravi asked me the impossible task to summarize in 30 minutes all the things that happened in all the sessions, and I was not quick enough to reject that. Luckily, I have Dr. Mohan Kumar, who agreed to join me in this effort. What have we seen here? Star Goofery this week? Have we retried Photosax, Sarofox, Sorofax, whatever? I think we've been here in a festery goo. Well, if you reshuffle the words, no, we have been here talking about agroforestry, but there are many different ways of spelling the word and interpreting the term. We've gone through many different sessions, many perspectives, and indeed it is not possible to summarize what we had. But what is new out here, Patrick? Luckily, we've seen many new things, but many of the new things were hidden in the posters, and I think some of you have been able to pick up some of the gems out there. I talked to many people in the corridor. What was your impression? What did you learn? And of course, you get many things. Well, the problems are still the same. The words are different. The world is not. There are many sides of all these multiple coins, but some new networking, slow progress, still a lot of preaching to the converted. We need more crazy ideas. We've heard about the intellectual bankruptcy of agroforestry. And I think we heard a plea to start a new journal on the agroforestry failures made famous. At the same time, on Monday, we saw the President of India giving an award to a 12-year-old. And when I seriously looked at everything that we've done, I think we can't do any better in summarizing this meeting than the drawing that she made. Now, that is both good news and bad news. Let's start with the bad news is that we shouldn't have come here with 1,000 people to talk for 5 days, because the 12-year-old actually can summarize it all, and probably better than any of us can do out here. The good news is that actually all our cynical, critical thoughts that we may have experienced in this field, actually we're still getting young people very excited about the idea and all the positive associations that the term has. And I think the positive news, I think, should prevail on us out here. Just before we traveled, our nice flowers in our garden was flowering, and I think, of course, it reminds us of the gender aspects that we need to look at very clearly out here. Here's the gender. But also, there were 2 flowers hanging on the same, coming out of the same leaf, and they were turning in opposite direction. And I think that actually is a very nice model of the way ICRAF and ICAR has been joint organizers of this meeting. And they're turning in different directions. They open up to different audiences, and together we do a better job than any of us could do alone. So back to our winner, and the winner is on the ICAR proceedings that you all have a copy of here if you want to. And I think putting some words to it, the words are powerful, androgyn, food and fruit, multi-scale, multi-objective, multiple perspectives. It's about birds, bees, butterflies, beasts, biodiversity. It is about climate and rainfall. It is about uniting people of all colors, as you see on the drawing. It is about education and sharing across generations. It is about issues of carbon dioxide and clean air, houses and transport, paper bags instead of plastic, please. Cogwheels are turning, cycles and recycling, and barefoot agents of change, standing on the world, but reaching out beyond that. I'm afraid I can't do any better than that as a summary of what we have been doing out here. But an important thing happened on Monday, and you've seen, and many of us commented on the Iron Curtain or the Berlin Wall that always has existed, separating agriculture and forestry. And over time, we've been able to make a few small holes in it. But what happened here now is that the wall has come crumbling down. And at least in India, as you've seen, the new National Agroforestry Policy of India did not create a separate window for agroforestry, did not define what is agroforestry, how different is it from forest, and how different is it from agriculture. But it actually decided that the most important thing is that there should be a level playing field and the rules should not make these differentiation. And I think that's a huge breakthrough, and I think we can celebrate that and try to replicate that in other countries. And to me, that is one of the most exciting things that happened here. So I think over time we've seen this shift in, or the multiple perspectives. Of course, agroforestry still is a technology that integrates trees on farms with crops and livestock. Agroforestry still is about farmers in the forest. It is still about the land use system or farming system, which trees play a significant role. But agroforestry is also a movement to reunite the institutions and rules that developed separately under an agriculture and a forestry heading. And I think if we get to that definition, I think then we'll reach a higher level of understanding. So could I ask Dr. Kumar to tell us a bit more about the first day and the details of what happened there? Yeah, yes, 3 minutes. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Meine. I have been just asked to explain the symbolic representation that is embedded in this painting by a little girl in Coimbatore. Oh, yeah, the same point.
The red dot.
Okay, Niharika, as you all have heard the name, she received the first prize from the President of India on day one of this conference. And what she has done, as Meine also pointed out, is to summarize all the benefits that we have been talking for the past 30 or 35 years about agroforestry into a short window, as you can see on the screen. And what she has painted is that the Mother Earth carrying in one of her hands the tree of life, which provides all those goods and services, all those ecosystem services that we often stress upon in our agroforestry deliberations. And as you can see, it provides, as shown here, provides all those, fruits, nuts, provides habitats, and the sky and the water drops symbolizes nothing but the 5 elements of life. According to the Indian philosophy, mythology, there are 5 elements of life, 5 basic elements of life. These are water, fire, earth, atmosphere, air, and of course atmosphere is usually termed as ether, which is nothing but the totality of everything. So that is symbolized in this picture. And also you see the youth for environmental reconstruction and restoration. All races, all colors, all genders are represented here for environmental restoration and tree plantation that you can also see here. Below, you also see the benefits that are derived from protection of mangrove forests. On the opposite side, you see the benefits of tree planting, like mitigating climate change, enriching oxygen concentration, reducing atmospheric carbon dioxide, CO2 levels. All these benefits are shown there. And you see the beneficial effects again of biofuels, which again come from agroforestry, and also the other beneficial effects of agroforestry, wildlife protection. You can see also, these agroforestry corridors provide habitat for wildlife. Many organisms are represented on this little picture that you see here. And the negative sides, you find the high-rise buildings, which uses energy-intensive materials, steel and cement. The downside of the modern civilization. You also see here on the opposite corner the beneficial effects of green engineering and green technology that is shown there. And then, of course, the negative aspects. I mean, all this she has marked. It's a remarkable job that she has done, in my opinion. All these, you see the cross marks and the tick marks. The cross marks you see here, these are the negative sides of modern technology, and the tick marks also you see there, that represents the positive sides, and for which agroforestry, standing agroforestry represents all those positive sides. Thank you. With that note, let me hand over the mic back to Meine. Thank you, Meine.
Thank you very much for that interpretation. Yeah, so we've seen agroforestry as in between forestry and agriculture. And of course, there's something many people don't quite understand about cogwheels, but of course, agroforestry has to go in the counter current against both agriculture and forestry in order to make the two wheels turn synchronously. Yeah? And I think we need more contrariness in this debate to make progress. Now, before we say what we've learned here in this Congress is relevant of the world, we need to check a bit on our biases. Yeah? We've had many, and I focus here on the oral presentations, many presentations from Asia. If you look at the countries represented, Asia and Africa are quite well represented. The rest of the world is 1/3 in terms of countries, and it is only 20% in terms of the talks. So we have seen, you can say, a rather biased perspective of the world in that sense. But if we look at our well-known forest transition curve, we can see, well, on the left-hand side, we see all the countries of the world for which we have data, and this is the relation between the number of people and the forest cover that they have there. And here are the countries that we actually have represented in our meeting. And I think we do a fair job in all the middle range. We don't have stories from the countries with high density and very little forest. We don't have much on the high forest, low density, but we do fairly well. This for the countries that still are eating up their forest right now. This is if we look at the countries that are already increasing their forest cover, according to the statistics. This is the global set. And the countries that we have here, again, are in the middle part. We are doing fairly well, but we haven't heard cases of the more extreme stories. In numbers, yeah, if you look at the pre-forest transition, post-forest transition, globally there's 83 countries that still eat up their forest, 29 that already start increasing their forest, so 26%. In terms of the orals that we have here in this meeting, we do a fair job in terms of the countries. In terms of the number of papers, of course, we've been very much biased towards the positive examples of countries like India that are already increasing their forest according to the statistics. But what does it mean? Well, we've had many different sessions, and I'll flip through the 36 sessions with you and explain to you that I was unfortunately not able to summarize 6 times whatever the number we have out here. And I'll do serious injustice to all, but what we're in the stage now, we've had the sessions with presentations, and now we talk about what happened in the session, so what else can we talk about what happened when you talk about the session, so we can talk about, we talk. So we're in this process now of condensing all this information in a dense set. And at the same time, we've heard many good, interesting things on the business of agroforestry, the nutrition, the important roles of that, livelihoods. And I think, yeah, we can't go much beyond just reconsidering actually the titles were a very good thing of it. We've heard interesting parts that the agroforestry is not only providing the provisioning services, but also many of the other ecosystem services. And okay, we've seen different talks highlighting different parts of a diagram, how the benefits to society are currently misrepresented in the way we do economic counting. And we're making good progress on doing that better in the future. I think at the same time, there's a long way to go. Interesting sessions on gender adaptation, bridging science and development, increasing food production through trees, building development, so many different topics. And we've seen a huge diversity of speakers, and I think that is the strength of our meeting overall. Yeah, humid multistrata systems, new tools and paradigms, finally try to find a way of getting root systems measured. But here, this is one graph that I would actually want you to have a second look at. This is very simple measurements of air temperature in the same landscape, in the forest, in the multistrata systems, in the open systems. And you see look at the scale, yeah? Just by having tree cover, forest is 6 degrees cooler, the multistrata system 3 to 4 degrees cooler than the open system. We worry about 2 degrees global warming, and yet we're having something in our hands that can easily cool it in that direction. I think that's some important single numbers to keep hold of, keep track of. Yeah? We had some work on the temperate agroforestry, the social science. Just one highlight in the social science, because I think there's some very interesting quantitative methods coming into social science in terms of the network and network metrics. We can actually see to what extent network metrics capture the strengths and resilience. And resilience is not just in the trees, it is in the people and the system that go with it. Sessions on the policy, on the rubber systems, scaling up, landscape approaches. So, unfortunately, I'm not able to get you any better synthesis than what we've seen here. But one thing is, we basically, in each of our fields of science, there are only basically 2 positions. A field of science is either in the red, and it's in the red if some evidence is contrary to the theories that we have, or it is in the green, and current theory is aligned with all the facts that we know. And that basically gives us 4 types of talks. Yeah, there is a talk where we say, before we came, it was confusion, and we brought light to this field, so we turned it from red to green. There's a type of talk that is debunking the myth, and before everyone thought they knew what it was, and now I have some new evidence, and the whole world is red instead of green. Those are 2 very exciting papers, and I think we have small glimpses of that, but I haven't seen big things coming through on that. We've seen a lot of talks that are from the green to the green. We basically knew we were interested in something, and we did something, and we confirmed we were still green, the theory is still right. And a fair number of things that are honest enough to say it was confused before I started. We did our level best, but sorry, it is still confused. And we go from the red to the red. And in terms of publishability, of course, the first 2 you can get into high journals. The green to green and red to red are not that publishable. And I think it would be nice to look back at our sessions, where do we actually have some, did we change the color? An important thing that has come back to our attention is a listing of what can actually change the world. Yeah? And data are important. Accurate data is important, but it is number 12 on the list of things that can matter. And beyond the data and the numbers, it is important to understand the system and what are the feedbacks in the system and how strong are the feedbacks and how much is the lag time and can we cut down on the lag time and make it more responsive. Beyond that, yeah, it is the structure of information flows and how do these feedback actually work. That's even more important than the feedbacks themselves and the numbers. Beyond that, it is the rules of the game. Yeah, what are the incentives, the punishment, the constraints, the carrots, the sticks, the sermons, and the hugs? But beyond that is the power to add, to change, to evolve, to self-organize, and not be dependent on rules that come from above. There's only a few things more important to that, and those are the goals and the mindset and the paradigms, and with what perspective are people and agents operating in a system. And the only thing that goes beyond that is the power to transcend the paradigms and go your own way. Now, it's interesting to see where are we with the agroforestry. And I think we have a lot of good progress on the numbers and the data. We have a better understanding of how the systems work. I think we start to see some interesting things that we get into the rules. The mindsets, we've always had the emotional stories on trees, but I think we're getting better and translating that into the real part. So overall, I think we're doing fairly well, but this is a hierarchy to look back at. Yesterday, Kate took us into the planetary boundary frame, and that leads to a big question. Where are we globally as mankind? We're increasing our agriculture production, but we've historically eaten up the environment in order to produce food. And where do we want to go? Do we want to go into that keep increasing food and degrading environment? No, we definitely want to go into this quadrant where we revive, and that is the sustained agility dimension. And that's where Tony's remark is, okay, sure. And Tony's remark, we want to live in a green society and not just in a green economy. Now, just in a green economy is a bit an understatement. It's quite a challenge to get there yet. But I think it's important for us that it's not just about economics per se, it is about societies and people. And in a very simple way, I think our diagram of our meeting here, it looks like a tree, but it also looks like a peacock. And we've started to think of the way we work at these multiple scales. And okay, we can work at the global scale, the national scale, the local scale. It's about trees and how decisions are being made. Yeah? And all our work somehow fits within this frame. And some of us tend to work locally and we gradually work our way up towards global. Others start global and we need to work our way down. And it basically means we have a step in the research. We need to understand what are the patterns in space and time and the drivers. Yeah? Okay. Just very quickly, I'll flip you through. We have an update of the Bob Sommer story of the tree cover. This is what happened with tree cover in the agriculture lands in the last 10 years, or actually between 2000 and 2010. And we've seen here globally, there are places where we substantially increased tree cover in agriculture land. We have places on the world where we substantially decreased tree cover in the world. And we have, interesting enough, in the end, the positives just are bigger than the negatives. It seems almost the same curve, but if you look at the numbers, we actually have 100 million people more now living in agricultural landscapes with at least 10% tree cover. And we have 200,000 people living in landscapes with more than 30% tree cover. The numbers, the people and the areas are actually going up, and it's important to look more detail. Of course, if we zoom in, at the continental scale, we need to understand, are these patterns correct or not? Is the metrics telling us what we need? And we need further feedback and comments on that. But the overall story is an interesting one. Now, the one thing that comes out from this analysis is that between the different parts of the world, we have very different stories about tree cover in agricultural lands. And we have, okay, Central America, Oceania, Southeast Asia, South America, are all places where we tend to have a lot of trees in agricultural land, whereas South Asia, North Central Asia, West Asia, North Africa, we're doing very poorly, comparative sense. Now, a lot of that can actually be explained by the climate, and if we look at, we rank all these places by climate from dry to wet, we see that Latin America is still the exception. Yeah, Latin America, they do better with trees in agriculture given their climate. And this is an interesting point. If we look at it against population density in the land, we see two patterns. We see in Southeast Asia, for a large time, more people coming in, less trees. A little bit on this side, even more people recover some trees. But somehow, something is very different in Latin America, Central America. And I think we need to get to that level that we can explain to the world what happens there. And is Central America the example for all of us? So what, tree cover? This, I think, is the most striking picture I found among the presentations. Do trees help, and do trees play a role in protecting soil? We had some work on ecosystem services, and this is the map of where these studies have been done, and the interesting gaps that no one looks at that in the humid tropics and this part. And okay, there's a lot of technical detail, and I have to skip through it in time, but there's lots of calculations that come through in doing that. And I think in the end, we need to go beyond understanding what is there, understanding how different it could be. Payment for ecosystem services is a very big thing. How many people are benefiting? $6.6 billion has been spent on payments for watershed services in the world. 95% of that was spent in one single country, in China. If we take out China, then only $500 million is left. So we have experiments like that so far happen in some countries on a huge scale, and other countries are just barely glimpsing at it. So we have a lot of opportunity to share and learn between, and look at the institutions and the leverage that can come through from that. And I'm told to speed up. One interesting remark is we had, well, big business has plenty of money and is short in public image. And we have smallholders who are short on money and plenty of public image. So it's a natural way to combine them, and I think that's an interesting idea. So I think overall what we see is that the tree cover transitions that we have is not only about trees in a landscape, but also about how people relate to trees. And there's an evolutionary story out here. But I think the more advanced stages of it is actually that people and trees see that they have co-benefit and they have an interest in coming together. And I think our story of breaking down the Berlin Wall and agroforestry is here. And the take-home messages that I leave on the screen for all of you to remember beyond the drawing is there are some real breakthroughs now on the policy level. We have evidence that trees cool the crops 2 to 4 degrees, please remember that number. Nutritional diversity actually increases when we go from 0 to 50% tree cover. People actually benefit, children benefit from that. Overall, the tree cover seems to be actually on an upward trend, slowly, in different parts of the world in different ways. We can learn and share across. Emotion and aspirations have to precede effects, as Dennis showed this morning. And we are a unique global network. Let's use it. Thank you.